people over, I would say, close to 40 years in industrial transformation, talent development, holding roles as a plant director, program manager, global director on learning programs. And I would say 90% of your career has been basically handing over in Nestle, previously General Electric, currently Alentros. So welcome to the new episode, Mr. Mario.
Thank you very much. For me, it's a pleasure being here. And if I can still helping others and helping people, for me will be always a pleasure, Miguel. Thank you for the invitation.
No problem, Mario. So let's start from the beginning, Mario. Let's go back to those days when you started your career. Give us some sort of insight. How do you get in your how do you get involved in manufacturing? How that happen? How you get familiarized with this whole world? Uh, and 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 giving us that idea about your beginning of your career.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I studied mechanical engineering, and then I wanted to work in projects. I started in General Electric in a small uh, but then you cut it out
No
in
problem.
a plant that they had in Venezuela for glass production for lightning bulbs and fluorescent tubes and stuff like that. And it was a very interesting experience. I have to say that our level in of studies in Venezuela was very, very high, and I consider that we have very, very good professionals. Then from there, I moved after almost 4 years. I moved into Nestlé just for the reason that I started studying a master in mechanical engineering as well in Barquisimeto, and I was traveling every weekend to do the studies, and that was a bit heavy at the end. I decided I better look for a job in that city in Barquisimeto. And that's when, by chance, I got invited by Nestle to join and to do projects. They have a lot of important projects, and I was very honored and lucky of being given of that responsibility with only 25 or 26 years of age at that time. And it was a beautiful experience, I must say. Also, to be said that this level of standards, the local covenant are called standards in Venezuela, are very, very high level. And that was pushing us to, to keep challenging to get that level of doing the things properly, and was a beautiful experience, especially when having to develop processes and products. It was a period of time that we wanted to replace import duties and things, and we did a lot
Okay.
of those things. One example was developing the recipe and also the equipment and everything to produce our own gum base to produce uh, chewing gum that we have, or
Okay.
bubble gum, a very popular bolibomba in Venezuela for
Wow.
from
Don't tell me that you
Nestle.
were part of that project.
Yes, and
Wow.
was a very interesting project because we started from zero, and honestly, there was not possibility of a lot of support from Switzerland because we were the only ones producing that type of products for Nestle. So it was very, very interesting and successful at the end. So were very beautiful times, and working for the biggest food and beverage company of the world was a great, great experience. I learned a lot. And in particular, what I think I learned most was when starting having to work with people and leading people and so on, which started a kind of transformation from mechanical engineering. I am, but I feel today I'm more of a person engineer than
Okay.
than anything
Okay.
else.
So Mario, before we join to talk about your step as a leader and start getting some sort of impacts, right? To others, I would like to dig a little bit more in that project because I get a little impressed. I was not aware that you were involved in that project about the Bolibomba. Bolibomba, to whoever is listening, is a very popular, and I would say it's a reference for the culture of a gum. I would say a gum in Venezuela, which is delicious. And give us some sort of insight when you were part of that project. Um, the use what you guys went through in order to because it was quite challenging. You already telling me that you didn't have any reference from Switzerland, so basically it was on you guys. You guys have the project, you guys develop the technology, and now let's see. So give us a little better about how did you went through that process.
Yes, first of all, was a team of people, like, because I was on the mechanical engineering part. There was a chemical engineer also, Carlos Guarecuco, that then went to work later on for Navisco and so on. A good, very good friend. And there was a lot of trial and error and learning on the process. So first of all, developing the recipe, because in the reference books you can find the ingredients, but you never find all the details. So we have to go through and do a lot of trials and trials till we fine tune the recipe. And then we started thinking, how can we design the machinery to be able to produce that process, and with local companies, and also people that help us a lot was the Polytechnical School in Barquisimeto, the university where I did my master, and also Carlos studied there. So they were always helping the companies around the industry, and they also gave us a lot of help on designing and so on. So we designed the equipment. We went to local providers. We built, we test, we improve, and finally we got the full design. That again, when we send the full project to Switzerland for approval, they hesitated a lot before approving because they couldn't
Oh
really
yeah.
check. And they said it can't be so good because, you know, the cost of the imported gum base was very, very high. So the payback was so short that they challenged it
Okay.
a lot. And we have visits from people from Switzerland and so on. So we showed that we were capable to do it. And well, at the end, demonstrating trust in the people, we got the approval and we started. And well, till I don't know if today, but a lot of years we were producing our own gum base.
And thank you, Mario. Thank you for those insights. And what about after you guys do that development section stage and was approved? Uh, now is the no, let's say the escalation phase, basically the startup of the project, right? And now deal with all of those gaps that everybody, whoever has been in a project in manufacturing, knows that one thing is the development, right? And another thing is now you are doing to the manufacturing when the people is intervening. And I believe that was in Santa Cruz as well, that project, Santa Cruz
Yes,
plant.
at the end, yeah, the lines were moved to Santa Cruz. So that was another big project I worked on, very, very challenging, but at the end with a lot of satisfactions at the end, because was to move all the operation from Barquisimeto to Santa Cruz. And it's not
Okay.
only the operation, but the know-how. And that imply a lot of working with the people in first developing the best possible standard in Barquisimeto, improving and improving, knowing that the operation was going to move. And that was part of the managing of the project. That very, very interesting, because the communication with the people, being fair with them, offering to them the different possibilities to go to Santa Cruz and work, still working for Nestle there,
Wow.
or managing the money that they got, etc., to do something on their own. But working with the people, close with them, and being transparent so that they still were motivated, Miguel, till the last day that the factory
Wow.
was open, to be able to bring the operation to Santa Cruz and to have a what today we call a vertical startup. We didn't even know about that names in that time, but
Yeah.
it was. We very rapidly started up the line, and the nominal efficiency and performance, as were the key measures of the time, were reached because of bringing people, experts from Barquisimeto to Santa Cruz with a different time schedule to train the people in the different positions there. And so the startup was very, very smooth and good because of the people at the end. So
Wow.
everything at the end is based on giving them the possibility to learn and to learn at the speed they need, and being accompanied with people that knew from Barquisimeto. And that was for me the key of the success of that project.
Wow, it's impressed how in every single experience that we went through, and for example on that one, how important is that engagement. Of course, you keep emphasizing that the skills and the expertise, and you mentioned just as a reference, whoever is close to Venezuela or Barquisimeto, the Polytechnical University is such a high level, high educated people, which I have a lot of friends as well. I'm from from the UCLA, from the UCLA, so I'm a little your competition, Mario. But no, but at the same time, the engagement. You said the commitment. The guys are quite. The team was quite commit, which I will say that was making the difference, right, to the
Indeed,
success of the project.
indeed, it's all at the end people, Miguel. That's the key thing. And also, not only for that project, but for a lot of things. Still today, there is people that were apprentices at the time from that university, so making the right fit with us. And still today, there is people that are going around and managing things at Nestle after several years,
Wow.
having started with us as young technical trainees, as we call it.
Okay, excellent experience, Mario. Thank you for sharing. Now let's go through a little bit on the when that happened, when in your career, that transition from the technical side, from the project development, equipment, and process products become more, now you're gonna be in front of the team, be the leading of the team. How that transition happened?
Well, it happened supported by people that sponsored that step and saw, see, for sure, the capabilities I had and the attachment, the strong attachment for me to people in
Okay.
different things. At that time, I was working in El Tocuyo, one of our multi-product factories, and I was the factory engineer, and was my boss, the factory director, that proposed me as a future factory manager or plant director. And seeing that I was always working with people. I remember one example that he always used. We went to a continuous improvement training,
Okay.
and we needed to take a problem, solve it, and then implement it and send all this information to the trainer. I
Okay.
said, well, instead of doing one project, my project, I would like my project to be, why don't I train all the supervisors that we have in El Tocuyo? I guide them, I do all the training that you did for me, I do it for them. And instead of one project, we can have maybe 20 projects and benefit much more. And they accepted. Of course, I was not alone. They gave me support from HR that came from Caracas and so on. And so the dynamic was not me as an individual, brilliant engineer doing one project and solving it, but better than that, working with people, developing people, and having more people, more autonomous doing things. So that was part of this evolution. And then there is one day that you have to jump into the swimming pool, and I was asked to be the factory director in Barquisimeto, in that factory where I started doing projects. And yes, I started there trying to do all the things that I learned all the time before, and mainly again working with people and for the people.
could you recall how much was the population in Santa Cruz at the moment?
Yeah, I did first Barquisimeto, that was like 300 people. Then
Okay,
from there, I moved to Colombia,
okay,
more medium size, 500 people, and then Santa Cruz. When I started in
okay,
Santa Cruz, was a factory of some 700 people and was growing really, really fast with export products and lines that were going to be installed to export and so on. And when I left after about 3 years, it was almost 1,400 people at Santa Cruz. So it was a huge growth.
huge,
It
huge
was a
plan.
very, very nice challenge as well, working with all the new people and trying to embark them whilst maintaining the quality of the product, of course, but also of the work and improving in safety and many other things. And we could manage as a team. We did, for me, a very good job on keeping the balance on all those things. And we improved in so many aspects that then we could be seen as best in class in
Yeah.
different things. And people visiting us from Switzerland, when saw that, they asked me if I would like to come to Switzerland, and that's when I moved to the center.
Okay.
And for me, it's very important, Miguel, to sense and kind of read the needs and the things that we need to do for the business at the same time for the people. Because if I move one factory before, Colombia, when I started in La Rosa, was totally opposite. The factory was shrinking the volumes for at least 4 years because the competition were taking part of our market share. And then was very, very tough because actually we needed to reduce the people. So we started asking people that volunteer for early retirement and so on. And at the same time, started working with the business to see what we could do to have new products and new things to level and then growing the volumes. And this we need to do. We as leaders, me and the factory leadership team, we maintaining the people working in the lines in a safe environment with the motivation. So we have to kind of filter the problems. We solve it. Of course, we have to communicate to them clearly because the truth is the truth and we can never lie to them. But we have to maintain at the same time the right working environment for them to keep doing what they know to do the best possible way. So that's very important to sense what are the needs. That, as I said, very different Colombia than was in Venezuela. But we have to keep an eye on the business and
Yeah.
another big eye on the people that at the end, they are doing everything that the business will be using to maintain the business and grow.
Wow. Wow. I want to really make a statement about your moment when you make. I mean, I say you as a leader because basically you were the plant director, but we know that there were too many people on your shoulders helping you, supporting you, engage with the strategy. But I would like you to give me some sort of maybe one or two key elements that make Santa Cruz, because I'm even though that I also was part of Nestle years ago, I went through Santa Cruz as well, and I will always will remind Santa Cruz as one of the most experienced in my career. What was the key contributor, Mario, if you want to share with us, to become Santa Cruz a best-in-class plan?
Yeah, was as you said, it was not Mario, but the team. Yeah, you need to be the orchestrator and be reading the things below your team above the team, etc. And all was based on very simple things I learned from a book I read when I was in Colombia called Gung Ho, which is basically how to measure and bring the measures down to the level of the line so that people can see each contribution to the big picture, then making those measures visible in the line as simple as possible, but they are visible with red and green when achieving, when not achieving, then developing the people, giving them the tools for problem solving, how to generate idea, how to work in groups, to making them more autonomous so that they can contribute, and recognizing the teams. So the teams or the lines that were performing better, there was a recognition that was not monetary, because this is not easy to manage. And for me, monetary contribution works for a while, but not in the long term, but where activities linked to the team. So giving them things that they like. Yes, some things you can say, you can translate in monetary, because some of the things they were using to go out, for example, for a dinner with the spouse or the significant others, etc. But was a lot of recognition to the teams. So this was something that, by the way, was one of those reasons why people coming from Switzerland invited me to come here. And when I was here in Switzerland, I also work in Nestlé Continuous Excellence, an initiative that still is there. And all those foundations, as we call, to then build on that, the world-class initiative, you name it, Lean, TPM, Six Sigma, etc. But the foundations were a lot coming from those things we learned in
Yeah.
Colombia and then in Venezuela. And I must say also that Santa Cruz, Venezuela, is a reference and the best in class because we did the things better. And we did it better because there were a lot of learnings in Colombia where part of what I did with the team was not successful. So I learned from the mistakes. And of course, when doing it the second time is easier, and you use your learnings to avoid mistakes, and it was a success.
Wow. How important it is, you just mentioned, to give the tools to the people on the floor, let them to participate, let them to involve in the methodology is such a powerful strategy, because at the end, you and me, we can have better a better understanding and the best knowledge ever, but if our guys on the floor, they are not understanding and we are not providing the right tool to perform an activity just as a basic themes to mention a red and green, green KPI for safety, for quality, uh, and we don't take the time to explain them what is the reason behind, it won't succeed in a long term. So thank you for sharing that, Mario, once again. Okay, so now in your career, you did a successful session in Santa Cruz, La Rosa. Now you are going to Switzerland. Uh, Tell us a little bit about that transition. Now you go to Switzerland, completely different world, different culture, different maybe a scope. I will say, because you are no like I will say, on hands on the factory, dealing with many things every day. Now, what was your main role when you moved to Switzerland?
So the main role was to work on continuous improvement, let's call it like this. There were
Okay.
projects ongoing at the time, target setting, we call it. People were going teams to the factories and establishing the new target compared with those best in class, and then solving it.
Oh,
That was at the beginning, but was already seeing the need for a transition to something different, something that was more helping in the factory, working together and leaving what you mentioned before, Miguel, those capabilities on the people to do it themselves. Target setting was leaving the factory with 100 actions in the to be done list, but not a lot of capabilities and tools. So we then decided that we needed to work on something different, and that different was this Nestle Continuous Excellence. And something I learned in the transition is that, as you said, now you are not responsible of one team, one factory. Doesn't matter if it's 1,000 people, a big factory, or even more like Santa Cruz, but the responsibility is global. So you need to start seeing the things as a more kind of helicopter view. You need to work with a lot of stakeholders, pairs of you, but also a lot of people above you in the hierarchy of the company. And you need to maintain the trust with them and communicating all the things that you do without forgetting that at the end, all those projects will be successful if each team in each group of the factories, they do the things properly. So once again, designing the things the most simple possible, bringing it to the level of the people that will be doing the things, operators, call it in general, and everyone in the factory, and trying to keep the balance between all the things. We spoke about the measures and indicator and visual things that is, for me, part of the key success of Nestle Continuous Excellence. But I forgot mentioning something that when you were talking about the KPIs came to me that the most important thing is also that it has to be a balanced set of measures. Cannot be like it was in the past, only performance, but it has to be with the quality, with the safety of the people, and actually all the reviews of operation in after NCE or after Nestle Continuous Excellence started with safety. First is people, then quality, then yes, cost, and then all the rest of the measure. Because without the first, the rest cannot be. So that's very important as well.
Yeah, well, we call in this type of organization, we call pillars. All the pillars are important, equally important, and one works beside another one. I will say. And Mario, and now with this new role, you just said it. You have to keep the trust of your people above you. Now you have to have that visibility, global visibility, and give it, I will say, the that guidelines to for the implementation to identify the gaps for different markets. So I would like to dig a little bit more on that. What is the strategy, for example, is that the case when you are implementing a program for let's say continuous improvement, for example, in Latin America compared, for example, to Europe, or that will be a factor, like say different markets or technology. It that matter when, for example, you are leading in confectionery compared, for example, to dairy products, just as an example?
Yes, you have always to adapt to your internal customer. You have always to adapt also when talking about developing the capability that we already said is fundamental in all the operators and so on. We have to adapt also to the speed of the people and to the ways of learning. But for me, the most important thing is to be with them, training them, developing that autonomy, that this was a key change. And I remember that the first experiment we did was a project I did in dairy. And I was lucky because it was a success and the trust was even higher. But I was sent there to a factory that had a very important, huge infant formula recall. And infant formula goes to very small kids that
Yeah.
if something could have happened would have been very disastrous for Nestle. And the previous teams approaching that factory were telling the factory what's wrong and then leaving, letting them behind with a lot of things to do. And I said, this cannot be the approach because no one is doing something wrong because there's bad people. They are doing because they don't have the right capability, or we believe they have, but it's not there. So I went there with the team and we spent there 6 months working with them, doing problem solving, but not doing it only on the team coming from Switzerland, but doing it with them so that at the time we left, then they were capable to do. And something else, that the focus was to stabilize the line, to eliminate the problems. And I said to Switzerland, you have to let me do the project without establishing savings targets or targets for savings like was in the past. And they were a bit concerned. I said, those targets will be set, but at the end of the project, and not by me and the team, but by the factory themselves. When seeing what they believe they can do, I was lucky because it was one of the highest targets that we have, but again, was not done by the external consultant or internal consultant coming from Switzerland, was done
Yeah.
by the same people in the factory. They said, we can do this, we can reduce the overweight, we can do that. And when they did it, then the whole credibility was there. So that's very important to work with them, Miguel. And again, all the sites have different needs and different levels. So we have to sense it and work with them because it's not the same, as you said, confectionery grew through acquisition at Nestle. So the level of the different markets is completely different, whilst infant formula is more standard, but it's not the same a factory in South Africa or a factory in Holland. There are context elements that make things different, and we
Yeah.
have to adapt and understand them. But again, the principles are all the same, which is good of that, because then also make it easier for whomever at Nestle work in one continent or the other, following the principles. But the key thing for a leader is to sense and adapt to the needs of the people.
Mario, I wanna ask you something, and I'm pretty sure you will say, "Oh, Miguel is quite repetitive," but I just want you to share it and to highlight it because it's very important. How come, from your experience, from your solid experience that you have implementing this type of continuous improvement methodologies across different markets, technologies, actually different type of categories as well. So, what make you a project to be successful after the startup, to make it sustainable across the time?
Yeah, it goes back for me to something essential, which is the development of the capabilities of the people in a continuous way. In the past, we used to train the people one off, people joining the factory. Let me exaggerate with this, but 1 week, all the training you need, and then you go. In some of the things, first of all, you will not need it now, but maybe in 1 year time. So at the time you need it, you forgot it. So the development of the capability must be a continuous, like a road, and we need to accompany the people in that row, in that flow, and people will take different times also to do it. And also we have to offer different ways for different people because the need, the capability is the same, the know-how, the knowledge, etc. But the way I learn is different to the other. So we need to give different options. In some places, could be that the e-learning is a good solution, but in a lot of places I know and I have been, is not the case. People need to be face-to-face. Another thing is to do, learning by doing, giving the environment to the people that is safe for them to try, to do mistakes and learn out of the mistakes. Also to understand what's the limit where they can decide and where not. And at that limit, also generating the environment for the people to be free and say, raise the hand and say, look, boss, I don't feel I can do, it's not safe, it's not good for whatever, I need your help. And then together as a team to do it. That's the way of the success. And another key thing is that we tend to forget, Miguel, the foundations, the basics, because nobody kinds of likes it. And we all want to do, the world class initiative. We want to talk about the lean, the TPM, the DMIC, etc. And whenever we have a visit at Nestle, colleague from VV from Switzerland, that's what we want to show. And if we want to build those big things in foundations that are not strong enough, then is when the problem happened. And we learned that by doing it also at Nestle. So we have to be sure not to move to the next step if those foundations are not there. And the foundations are the very simple, as we said, establishing a good set of measures that are leading measures. My measures as an operator, my contribution is visual, is balanced, and then we have problem solving, basic problem solving to do, to adjust when we are not reaching the target, and so on and so forth. So building that structure. And once again, we as leaders are not there to demand and push, but we should be there to support the people in reaching that those levels. So if they need capability, giving them the capability, etc. So working for them instead of working, yeah, ahead of
For
them,
the
like it.
result. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, more of the caring type of spirit as a leader.
I don't know, Mario, but the time goes so fast. We already reaching the limit of the time that we, and definitely we have to make a second episodio, and the second one will be in Spanish, so our people that they enjoy more the Spanish language. Uh, but I don't want to go. I don't want to leave you before you tell us a bit about your current professional career, what you are doing right now. And I forgot to ask you. Maybe we can leave it for the next episode. What make you? What is your passion? What make you? What keep you? Motivates you? But let's keep that question for the next episode. For now, what you are doing, what is your main role, and how we can keep you connected with you.
Sure. And thanks again for the invitation. Before forgetting, saying it again, my last 9 years at Nestle, I was heading learning and development for operations and R&D. That means 230,000 people worldwide, more or less. So a huge role, which I discovered also that I felt in love with that. I wanted also always to go back to operations at the beginning. But then after a year of doing that, I said, this is what I really like, working with people, supporting people, developing people, and so on. And I told my company, Nestle, if you like what I'm doing, leave me here. And it seems that they like it because I retired in that position. And in so doing, I discovered my real passion, which is, as I said, working with people, for people, supporting them, developing, seeing the people growing in the company, etc. And this is what I'm doing now, part-time. I'm working not more than 50% of the time because there are also other priorities. And I really love when being able to go to a place and through those training sessions, mainly leadership through safety is the main course I'm delivering now, seeing that the people are changing the way they approach, the way they work, becoming more caring leaders, taking care of themselves, but also taking care of the others, whilst taking care of the quality of the product and the business and so on, but understanding that the real value at the end is people. And the company at the end we are working for, the company is the people that work for that company. And there is
Right.
no other way to develop a business that if it's not through the people. So being able to help people still today, it's fulfilling me. Of course, also part of my time today, I'm dedicating to the family and trying to give them more time, more quantity, but also more quality time, which unfortunately sometimes when traveling and working full time
It's quite
was not
difficult.
there. So I'm trying to, if I may say, recovering part of that time. I know it's not possible, but
Yeah.
anyhow, I'm doing it and I feel well building a legacy for my kids and hopefully soon when having the grandkids. Still no grandkids, but I
In
hope
the
that
future.
soon we will have the in the future.
just to give you and thank you for sharing that a little bit of your uh, half your professional career and what you are dedicating your family, which I can see is such an important thing for you, and hope you're gonna get some grandkids soon. You are the first guest in manufacturing talks a podcast that is coming from Barquisimeto, which also give me some sort of happiness. I always want to hanging around with people from Barquisimeto, from the city that we born. That way, that makes this episode a little more special. So let's connect for the second episode, and just to give you to whoever is listening us, the next episode we're gonna talk about digital transformation and how all these new technologies, AI is getting involved in manufacturing and in the learning, because looks like you are in that field learning, teaching. So how that new trends nowadays is basically an advantage, disadvantage. People is losing their jobs. That's a lot of how do you call myths about that. So let's leave it for next episode. Hope you like, Mario, this moment, this conversation with me, and just until the next time.
Sure. Thank you very much again. I really enjoyed it. It was a pleasure for me. And as I said at the beginning, if this can help others, I'm more than happy to do it. And yeah, let's